Hey guys, welcome back to the Guardrails Green Room, and today I have a special guest. I have Tim Frump. He's also in my small group. Excited to have you, Tim. Now, you didn't remember, and I didn't remember either. I had to do a search on it. We were in the small group Green Room together talking a little bit about financial peace 3 years ago. And so 3 years ago, we hit a little bit of this, and you were able to share some of that story. But I want to kind of back up and start with, give us a little background. How did you get to Oak Ridge? Tell a little bit about that story.
Yeah, sure. So I moved here about 8 years ago from Central Illinois. And my wife stayed behind, packed up the house. And so when I got here, I started looking at churches because she's from an Assemblies of God background. And so I decided to go out on a mission and check all the churches and find something that would suit her. And so about 3 months later, after she packed up the house, moved, and did mission work in Cambodia, then she came and joined me here.
Wow.
So I took her to a couple of those churches, and she's like, no, that won't work for me. And so I said, well, I need some help. And so she started doing some online searching, and she found Oak Ridge. So
wow,
that's
just
how,
from doing the online.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you failed in your entire mission.
Absolutely. Any husband knows that. Yeah, didn't meet the need.
So you did some advanced searching. You guys ended up landing here together and coming to Oak Ridge. Now, tell me a little bit about how did you become involved in Financial Peace University?
Okay, let me share one little tidbit on that too. When we got here, so the first time we came to Oak Ridge. Had never even seen the church, hadn't been past it. So we came in, attended the service, didn't talk about the service while we were here. When we left, we got in the vehicle and started to drive away and turned and looked at each other and said, that's the place.
Wow.
And that's literally how it worked out, how we landed here at Oak Ridge.
So that was a good confirmation then.
Absolutely.
So now what year was that?
Just about 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago.
Okay. All right. About 2014 or 2019?
2015.
15, I mean.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So tell me a little bit. So you came, you got connected with Oak Ridge. Did you connect with other ministries before Financial Peace, or?
No, actually Financial Peace was the first ministry. Jim Kaler works at Purdue, as do I. And he and I were talking, and Jim said, well, I'm doing the financial ministry and Financial Peace University. And I'm like, seriously? I said, you know, I've had that. And I said, I really, really enjoyed it. And he said, well, we're always looking for someone to help instruct. And I said, well, I'd love to get involved. And so Jim is the connection as to how we got involved with Financial Peace here.
That's cool. I wasn't aware of that, but that's really, really cool. So for folks that don't know, we have an entire money management ministry that still operates even throughout the year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then the big kahuna is when we do Financial Peace University, and that's when we really have a large funnel that connects people into the basic principles. So you had mentioned you had Dave Ramsey even before you came to Oak Ridge. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, actually a little bit of the background of how I started with the Ramsey principles. To over 3 decades ago, I took a course by a guy by the name of Givens.
Okay.
And it was the kind of the Financial Peace University principles, but not Christian-based or faith-based.
Okay.
And so 15 years later, the church that I was attending had Financial Peace University. And so I went to the course, took that, and have been a Dave Ramsey-aholic ever since. So
you're a Ramseyite. Yeah. Well, and it's kind of funny because once you kind of go into it, a lot of people feel like it's almost like a cult. What does Ramsey say? You know, you almost have to call Dave before you make a financial decision. But it has been so helpful to so many, literally millions of American households. And so you've been doing Financial Peace University here at Oak Ridge for many, many years. I bet you've probably seen some stories that have walked through the door. Talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you've seen.
The things that have really touched my heart, in particular, we've had a few couples that came prior to marriage and took Financial Peace University, and I've talked to them down through the years since then, and it made a tremendous difference in their marriage as they got started. So that's really been a good experience. I've seen other people walk through the door and have said, I have no idea what to do. I'm totally buried in debt. I don't even know where to start. And you could sense the panic in them. And, you know, the first thing, of course, is calm down. We'll help you. And so it's been very touching to see a lot of those people after the years that have followed the program and have had great success.
That's cool. It seems like, you know, money. It seems like it's such a easy thing to separate from everything else, but it's not. You know, bad money, bad marriage, bad money, bad life, bad money. You know, everything gets messed up because when your money's messed up, everything's messed up, and because it touches so many areas. I think it's probably one of the most vital ministries we do at Oak Ridge is when we help people to be able to get their hands around the principles that are just smart money. I love that you said you first started it was not even a Christian course, it was just a money course that it's just smart principles. You don't have to be a Christian to be smart with your money, but how cool is it that the Bible backs up every one of these principles? So literally 5,000 years ago, the Bible is saying, look, you ought to do this with your money. So
that's the thing that made a tremendous difference to me. Once I took Financial Peace University and I saw that the Bible was directing us in how we should be good stewards, and that just had sold me completely. So
very cool, very cool. What other stories? Anything else that you've seen over the years?
Well, I've heard, now these people weren't in my class, but I was told that there was a couple that came and took Financial Peace University simply because they were so far in debt they couldn't figure out how to divorce. And after Financial Peace University, they worked through that and actually stayed together. Now, I'm not sure if they're still together, but that's a pretty darn good success story if you can work through that kind of a process.
Yeah, we've actually had more than one. We've actually had more than one marriage restored and reconciled by attending Financial Peace University. It's that powerful. You know, I think that possibly one of the things that it ignites is that amazingly, couples fail to communicate over the most important issues in their marriage. You know, we discover that people would rather divorce one another than actually sit down and reconcile their checkbook and figure out how to get their money. You know, but when you're put into a course like financial, but you're put into this context, this container where you need to talk to set a budget. You need to talk to set goals. You need to talk. When you have to do that talking, suddenly you find, you know, we're not attacking the person, I'm talking the problem, and we're doing it together as a team, and it really helps to build that out. So I think that's one of the cool things. What do you think? I know he says that he has these baby steps. I think there's 7. Is that
7?
Is that correct?
Right.
So he has 7 baby steps. What do you think is the most critical of those for the people here at Oak Ridge that you see coming through our doors?
Well, the most challenging is baby step number 1, $1,000 in the bank, because that's where the rubber meets the road. If you're going to get serious about making change, then you have to commit and get $1,000 in the bank. So that's critical. And then the debt snowball is, the gazelle intensity, you know, being involved in the debt snowball is such a building experience for a couple. And you start knocking down those wins, and it is a tremendous feeling and experience. So.
Now, what do you say to somebody, they come and say, I know I'm supposed to start with baby step 1 and get $1,000 emergency fund, but that's my problem. I ain't got no money, I can't pay my bills. How am I supposed to get $1,000 when I can't even pay my electric or my mortgage or my car payment? How in the world am I supposed to start in the system if you're telling me all of a sudden I have $1,000? What do you say to this guy?
I usually give them the Dave Ramsey line. If you want something different, try something different. Don't sit there in that mud hole that you've created. If you truly want to make a positive change in your life, then you'll find a way to make it happen. I've seen people sell stuff out of their garage. I've seen people get second jobs. There's a multitude of ways that you can win. So
there's always something that you can do. There's
absolutely.
always something. So a lot of people, I think maybe we get that mindset that because it's so messed up, I can't do anything, so why even try? And so we end up in the same pattern. So I think that's really good. So this year we're seeing, and it really started last year, but we're seeing in our economy, we're seeing a continuation of what many analysts are saying. Obviously, we've had inflation. The prices of things are going up. Many are saying, are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? It really doesn't matter what the label is. It's just harder to get by. What do you see in the economy that you might say, here's some observations or even some recommendations for families in our church during a tough time like this?
I'll give you a couple of don'ts, okay?
Okay.
So I read just recently that U.S. consumer credit card debt reached an all-time high, almost $931 billion in credit card debt. I know that it's difficult to resist when you're in a panic situation to pull that piece of plastic out and pay for it. Don't do it. Find another way. Whether that's selling something, whether it's getting a part-time job, whatever the case might be. Another suggestion I saw just recently that in the month of December, 18% of U.S. automobile new car loans were in excess of $1,000 a month. Now, that is just bizarre. Yeah. And I understand the cost of a car has gone up tremendously, but you can survive in a beater. Many of us have done it.
Yeah.
And so think about how you're spending your money and don't go into debt.
Yeah, those are absolutely some good, we tell ourselves, well, you name the core things that every family's got to have. We got to have food and transportation and, utilities and clothes. And, these are the fundamentals. But what's hilarious, and shelter, what's hilarious is that when we say transportation is a fundamental, I have to have it, we're not saying I have to have a brand new vehicle in order to have transportation. And we kind of excuse ourselves. I have to have a car and it has to be reliable. Yeah. Well, okay, but that does not mean you need a $60,000 investment in a vehicle when you're struggling. Now, sometimes I've had people get on to me because, I do the talk in every year in my finances of, not new, buy used, why would you buy new? And they're like, Pastor Brian, you may sound like it's a terrible thing. You can buy new if you can pay cash. If you're not going to pay cash and you're just going to do it on credit, then Pastor Brian's still going to tell you, No, you need to be sure that you can afford it. Remember, again, before you pay for it, pray for it. And that means pray that God will give you a peace and says this is the right movement. So, Tim, thank you. Any final things that you can think of that you would want to share with our folks about financial peace or their own finances?
I strongly encourage anyone that hasn't taken Financial Peace University, please do it. We're very user-friendly. If you need some advice on how to do it, contact myself or Jim Kaler. And for those of you that have taken it and maybe it didn't stick, please come back. Yeah. You're welcome to come to any class that you want to. But I've seen tremendous changes in people by taking Financial Peace University. So please come and do it.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot like the Growth Track Basics. You don't get it all the first time, and it is good, and it is cool that Dave says, look, if you've paid, you're an alumni. If you're an alumni, come on back. You can take the class again. You got to pay for materials if you want new materials, but at the end of the day, you can keep coming to the class. That's great. And so you probably should. I know I've done that 3 times. And then also we have a money management ministry. Maybe you get stuck and you say, look, I've tried to do this budget thing at home. I cannot figure it out. I'm completely stuck. Let us help you. just say, look, I want help from money management, and we will help you. We'll sit down with you and say, let's put it all on the table and do this thing together. We're here to help. Tim, thanks for being a part today, and we look forward to every family in Oak Ridge experiencing financial peace. We'll see you next time.